Hello! Today we are going to work on the rating feature on the menu screen. So let me go ahead and show that to you here. We've been working on the menu screen. Last time we did about the author, and now we're going to do rate the app. So when you click on rate the app, this alert dialog is supposed to show up with some options. We're going to start from here. There are some design decisions that we're going to revisit from this design, but we'll start with this design, and it's going to give us the opportunity to look at a whole bunch of things about the iOS API. So let's do this. Let's open a terminal window. And do start from a clean slate. Now let's come over to Xcode and take a look at our main.storyboard. So last time we did this about the author page, and this time we're going to make this rate the app button do something. So first, what I'd like to do is use the same button approach that we used for about the author. Get rid of this rate the app label and have a rate the app button instead. So I'm going to copy the button that we used for about the author. I'm going to rename it rate the app. And I'm going to delete the label that did it. And then we'll change the text in the attributes editor to rate the app. Cool. Now, when we are working on enabling user interaction on a screen, that screen needs to have its own view controller. So that's the next thing we'll do. Let's make a view controller for our menu screen. Yes. All right, there it is. We're not going to need this boilerplate because we're going to put an outlet to our button in here. So let me also open main.storyboard on the right with Option Enter. And I've got this rate the app button. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this view controller, I'm going to go to its identity inspector, and I'm going to make it a subclass of the menu view controller so that the menu view controller is who's contacted when anything fires on this screen. Now I'm going to control drag from the rate the app button to create an action called did tap to rate. This gives us a function, and that function is going to fire anytime somebody taps on this button. So if I were to print rating inside of it and run the simulator, I see rating coming up in my console. Good, so it works. But ultimately, printing rating isn't what we want this to do. We want it to show one of these alert dialogues. So here's how we do that in iOS. We can say let alert equal UI alert controller. This is going to take a couple of arguments: title, message, and preferred style. So let's put each of these on their own line to make them a little bit easier to read and understand. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this left-hand menu so that we can see it. There we go. Let's make the title, what was it? Rate us. Rate us. Let's make the message enjoying the Scottish Gaelic tattoo handbook. Please take a moment to rate it in the App Store. Now under preferred style, we're going to get two options. We're going to get action sheet and alert. Action sheet pops up from the bottom, so it's easier to select items with your thumb. This design uses the alert style, so we'll use that for now. Cool. Now that we have our alert, we need to present it. So we say to the view controller, present the alert. And there's one other variable, animated, which will pass in true to animate the presentation of our alert. Run the app again. Rate us. Enjoying the Scottish Gaelic tattoo hymn, but please take a moment to rate it in the App Store. So this looks good. For the record, this is what it would look like with Action Sheet. It's not going to make a whole lot of sense right now because we don't have any actions on there for you to take, such that you would need to press anything with your thumb. But it's good for you to have an idea of what the different styles would look like. See, so it comes up from the bottom. Alright, so now we need to start adding some actions to this thing. There are two actions in our view. Take me to the App Store and remind me later. Let's do take me to the App Store first. So this is what we're going to do. We need to create an object and then we need to add it to our alert. So the way that we do that is alert, add action, and you can see that it's taking a UI alert action. We will initialize this in line like so. We use this initializer. Once again, let's put all this stuff on its own line. Okay, so what do we want our title to be? Rate the app. I think that's what it was, right? Take me to the App Store. Take me to the App Store. Cool. And now we get to choose a style. You'll notice 3 different styles: cancel, default, and destructive. We'll go over cancel later. This one's going to be default. Let me just move us all a little bit. Make this a little bit easier. All right. So we could pass in a handler like this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use closure syntax like this instead. Get rid of that right there. And I'm going to take in a UI alert action. Okay? So it's going to be like this. Action, UI alert action. And that's what I'm getting in. So we're going to do... So here now we need to go to the App Store. So I'm going to show you an API that we use to go to web pages in Safari in iOS, and then we're going to talk about what that would mean for like deep linking or something similar. So first let me figure out what this thing's problem is. This. No, I think I actually have that right. I think this needs to go with. Yeah, there we go. So we need to add the whole action. All right, brilliant. All right, so this is what we're going to do. So we're going to make a URL, okay, out of a string. And for that string, we're going to use just the App Store in general for right now. Now, what we would theoretically want to do, right, is to have you go, or have the user go, iOS App Store, would be to go to this specific app in the App Store. But because this app isn't published yet, I don't yet have its ID to take you directly to it in the App Store. And so we'll do this demonstration having you go to the App Store in general. So this URL can be nil if this can't parse properly. And so what I'm going to say is if let URL equal this. That's going to mean that provided this URL is available, we're going to visit it. And so the way that we're going to visit it in iOS is like this. UI application And we're going to use the shared state of the application here, okay? And then we will say, I want you to open the URL. Great. So we've got our first action. Let's see how it does. All right, it says rate us, blah, 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 and then this button that says take me to the App Store. And when we click on it, we are taken to the App Store in Safari. Now, this exact same API is what you would use to do deep links in iOS. You need to get a destination in another application, and that's what you're going to put right there. And so that might be to the App Store, or that might be to another application. But you'll be using this same technique to go into those other applications within this closure when somebody taps on that item. All right. So there is one thing that isn't demonstrated on this design, but I want to mention and then I want to implement. If you are creating an alert dialog like this for a user, it's really important to include a cancel button on it. The reason for that is if somebody taps this by accident, or they tap it not knowing the options and then they don't like the options, they don't have any explicit way to get out of here. Now, on most devices, the idea is that you'll be able to tap away from this alert dialog, and that will make it go away. So let me show you that. Okay, what did I do with it? What did I do? Oh, I don't know which one it is. I'm just going to run it again and reopen. Rate the app. But as you can see, tapping away doesn't work here the same way that it does on alert dialogues that have been explicitly programmed to work that way. Speaking of which, we also need to change this action sheet back to alert. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to explicitly add an action to cancel. That looks like this: alert.addAction, UI alert action, title, cancel, we'll say. Style is going to be cancel. Like that. And then it knows that we want to cancel, and so we don't need a handler. That's what style takes care of for us. Now, all right. So you can see that we have take me to the App Store and we have cancel. And cancel will make the alert dialog go away. Let's make this cancel and not canc1. Perfect. All right. So now let's talk about the next thing in this design. It is remind me later. Remind me later. So in order to remind a user later, what do we want this application to do? Now the design doesn't specify, but I would say that if you want to be reminded later to rate an app in the App Store, that's probably going to be some kind of a notification to your device. So we're going to implement a local notification for this. I want to draw a distinction before we get started between a local notification and a push notification. Those are two different kinds of notifications that we can get on the home screen of our phone if an app isn't running or is in the background. So they are different though. A local notification is one that is sent by some application that's already on our device, that keeps the information on the device. Whereas a push notification generally comes from some kind of central hub. It can be initiated, say, by a person to issue a disaster warning to all phones in a given area. Or it can be used by a company to make sure that everybody who's using an application knows when an update comes out, or something like that. So local notifications and push notifications are different. They require different permissions. And if something comes up on your phone that you programmed your phone to tell you about, it's most likely a local notification rather than a push notification. So we're going to do local notifications in the application right now, but before we do that, what I want to do is make a commit here. So this is what we'll say, git status. Let's add all of our stuff that we were already tracking. And we're going to say that what have we implemented here? We rate the app button produces the option to visit the app store or cancel. Ta-da! All right, now we're ready to move on to our next piece of functionality. We're going to add yet another action. So you see two actions here. Take me to the App Store, remind me later. We added a third action, which was cancel. So now we're going to do this remind me later one. Alert.add action, and it's once again going to be a UI alert action. Okay. And that's going to have a title. And that's going to be, what was it? Remind me later. Remind me later. I'm putting that in small caps, even though it was in title case in the design, because we don't have consistency between these two, and I think we should. And I don't think take me to the App Store belongs in title case, although I guess that's up for debate. So once again, the style here is going to be default. Default is what we use when we want to use an action that isn't created for us, such as cancel, that's already pre-programmed. All right, so then we have our action, UI alert action. Ooh. Just like that, just like we did up above. Here. Let's close off our closure. Not going to need both of these. There we go. All right, so now we've got our next action, and this is going to be our remind me later action. So here we need to instantiate a local notification, and for that we're going to need a library that comes with iOS. So currently up here we import UIKit. We're also going to need to import user notifications. So that's what we're going to use for this. Remind me later. All right, so the user notifications thing gives us user notification center. This is another singleton, so we're just going to use the current user notification center for this. The reason that it's a singleton is so that a device can manage all of the different local notifications that are supposed to be happening at a given time. So we're going to get a hold of this, and we'll call it for now this. We don't necessarily need to assign it to a variable because it's singleton. We're not going to be dealing with multiple copies of it or anything like that. But center is closer than all of that, or it's shorter than writing all of this. And so we're going to use the shorter name for all this stuff. Okay, so we're going to use this user notification center to send our notification. Let me get rid of this extra thing on the side, create a little bit more room. There we go. The next thing that we need to do is we need to specify what we want this notification to do. So we have a couple of options that we can use, and they live in this object called UN Authorization Options. These are the things that the app needs to be authorized to do. alert being one of them. You can also put things in here like, let's look at some of the options. Oh, it's mad because this is supposed to be initializing it with that, I think. Let's look at how UN authorization options works real quick. I forget the exact syntax. Let options. So it appears that UN authorization options is a type alias to a collection of this specific type of enum. Okay, that's fine. So this is actually like that. All right, now it should be able to give us our options. Yeah, because it knows all the different options in this enum. So we need maybe the opportunity to make an announcement, to work with CarPlay, to update the badge, the little red circle in the corner of the app icon. Issue a critical alert. This is usually what local governments are doing when they're issuing like a tornado warning or something like that. Displaying a button for in-app notification settings. The ability to post non-interrupting notifications provisionally, play sounds. Cool. So we basically need alert right now. That's going to make our notification come up. And what we need to do is we need to get permission to do our notification from our user. Reason being that Apple rightfully doesn't allow apps to just have permissions to do whatever on the device they want. The person has to actually authorize things like posting notifications to the device. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go like this. Center request authorization. Okay? So we're going to request authorization like so. We're going to pass in our options like that. And that's going to be these options right here. So we can ask for more or fewer things depending on what we need. And we're going to use, once again, our closure syntax here, like so. And what I'm going to say is, what we're going to get is information about whether it was granted as well as an error. Okay? So, if granted is false, then the user did not give us permission to send these notifications. For now, this. Although maybe we would log this somewhere if we wanted to know, if a user called us and was like, you know, my notifications aren't posting, I don't understand why, we could look and potentially see in a log somewhere whether they had denied the app permission to post local notifications to this device. All right, so that's our case for granted. And now, let's see what happens. It's worth noting that if you don't do this asking for permission step, even if you have all the code in there to show the local notification, it's not going to work because Apple checks that permission before it posts a local notification. Okay. So now we're going to click Remind Me Later. Nothing happens. Let's see. Now I'm looking at this to see what it is that could potentially be the issue. to request authorization. Oh, you know what I think it may be? So this notification only shows up if those permissions have not already been granted. And because I've been playing around with these apps on my phone, on this device, I think it's possible that they've already been granted on this device. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to run this on a new device to show you what this looks like if we don't already have this permission. So it doesn't have to request permission for every single local notification post. It just needs the permission one time from an application. Here we go. We'll give it a second to get booted up. While it does that, I'm going to go get some tea. I will be right back. Okay, so it's up. Let's take a look. Remind me later. Scottish Gaelic Tattoo Handbook would like to send you notifications, which may include alert sounds and icon badges. These can be configured in settings. So we can choose whether or not to allow. And if we allow, granted is now going to be true. Now we have the permission that we need to create a local notification for our application. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's make some content to put in our notification. We'll call this content, like so. And we'll give it a title. Remember, why not? Content, body. Let's say rate the Scottish Gaelic Tattoo Handbook app. We'll give it a title and we'll give it a body like that. And now we have our content. We need to know when to post the content. For that, we're going to use what's called a trigger. And we're going to do there are a couple different options here, and I want you to see them. So let's see if I can get the different notification triggers up for you. UN notification trigger. So look at these. UN notification trigger, push notification trigger, calendar notification trigger. So let's talk about what some of these do. Calendar notification trigger is a trigger condition that causes a notification to be delivered at a specific date and time, whereas location delivers the message when the user's device enters or exits a specified geographic region. Push notification trigger is a trigger condition that indicates that a notification was sent from the Apple push notification service, which again is different from a local notification. And we also have UN time interval notification trigger, which is a trigger condition that causes a notification to be delivered after the specified amount of time elapses. So this is the one that we're going to use now for the purpose of demonstrating how you would use a trigger. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to say, let's go with the time interval 8 seconds after we click the button, okay? And yeah, and then our other, we also have to say whether it's supposed to repeat. And the case is going to be, in this case, we're going to say no, we don't want it to repeat. Great. So we got our content and we got our trigger. The next thing is going to be to create our notification request with this content and with this trigger. What's it upset about? Time interval, notification trigger. There we go. So let's make our notification request. UN notification request. And it should give us some options. Yeah. So we need an identifier. The identifiers do need to be unique, and so if you issue 2 different posts with the same identifier, the second one will replace the first. If you want your app to give multiple different notifications at once, then you need to generate them like this, or in a similar way that creates unique identifiers. We don't need that, so we can give it an identifier like, I don't know, rate notification ID. There we go. Our content's going to be the content we created, and our trigger is going to be the trigger we created. There we go. And let's call it let request. Right? All right. So finally, we need to go back to our good friend, UN User Notification Center, and say center dot add request with completion handler. So this is going to be request with completion handler, and in this case we're going to use our trusty closure syntax again, with a potential error. And all we'll do for now is if error, we'll say we would handle any notification errors. All right, so we got our content, our trigger, our request, and our scheduling. Let's see how it does. All right, so I click rate the app. I click remind me later, and then I close the app. Okay? So it's closed. And we see our notification. Remember, rate the Scottish Gaelic Tattoo Handbook app. It's worth noting that if your app is in the foreground, that notification won't come up, which is why we close the app. Also, our notification isn't particularly useful right now because it sends you that reminder, but it doesn't take you to the App Store or anything like that. You can have a notification do that. And the way that you would do that is with custom actions on a notification. Now, we've talked about how you might use a notification. I don't want to go too deep into custom actions, but I can tell you that this Use Your Loaf article, Local Notifications with iOS 10, contains this section on custom actions, which will explain that to you. So if you are trying to add a custom action to a notification that you have made, you can go through this process to get buttons like this. And when those buttons are pressed, you can write code that will fire when the buttons are pressed. Like this. So you could programmatically take someone to the App Store from a local notification. But here's why we're not going to get too far into that. is that what we've made here, while very nice and true to the original designs, has some issues for right now. Mainly, what we're dealing with is that we can't take someone to the specific app in the App Store until we have a publication ID. And we won't have a publication ID until we publish this app. Additionally, iOS has a way that they prefer we use to ask for app ratings in a mobile app. So what we're going to do is we're going to commit this, and then we are going to put this implementation on a branch. We're going to back up head in Git to before this implementation, and we're going to use the iOS recommended one. So let's go through that. I say git status. I add everything that's already tracked. And I say rate the app options includes option for a remind me later notification on an 8-second, no, I have a better idea. What we'll do is we'll make that a more realistic amount, like this. So rather than have it on a time interval of 8 seconds, we'll have it send it an hour later, 360 seconds. Wait, is that right? 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 60 times 60, 360. Yeah, it's right. So we're going to add that and then do git commit -- amend to get that added into our previous commit. Okay, so now let's do git log one line last 5 commits so we can see where we are. Whoops. Git log -- one line head 5. What am I doing wrong? All right, let's do this. Git log one line. I want them in reverse chronological order. All right, I was getting them in chronological order. Okay, so this is where head is located, right? Rate the app options includes option for remind me later notification, and rate the app button produces an option to visit the App Store or cancel. Excellent. So we want these 2 commits on their own branch. So this is what we're going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say quit git checkout -b and let's say custom option app rating dialog box. Custom rate the app custom options. All right, so now if we repeat our command, we see rate the app custom options is located at that commit. What I now want to do is I want to move main back to this commit. Now I want to make sure I get this command right, so I'm going to Google it before I do it just to make sure. So this is what I'm going to say. Move branch head to SHA git command. That's the one that I want. Okay, excellent. So, quit git checkout main git log -3 -- one line. This is the one where I want it. git reset hard to there, git log -3 -1 line now should show main here, and then when we do git branch, git checkout, rate the app custom options, git log 3 1 line, we should still see our 2 commits. And there they are. So now here's what we'll do. We will end up with our menu view controller getting rid of some of this. And actually to do this, here's what I'm going to do. Git branch, git check, git log -3 -1 line, git checkout master main. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset head to be actually at this first commit that we did and not the second one. This is the one with local notifications, but this is the one that sets our button and our menu view controller and creates the click listener and everything, our IB action. And so I do want to keep all that. So what I'm going to do is git branch, git reset head to here. Whoa. I want the SHA. Great. So then when I do this, let's try something else. Git cherry pick. That should get it. Git log -3 -1 line. All right, so now we have rate the app button produces an option to visit the App Store or cancel on main, which is great. So now let's run the app and confirm that it does what we're expecting, which is that it won't have that local notifications option, but everything else will be there, our alert dialog and all of that. Boom, rate us. And it doesn't have our notification, but it does have everything else. That's perfect. So now here's what we're going to do. We're going to go in the menu view controller. Come on. And we are actually going to get rid of all this. Now check it out. This is the way that iOS wants us to do this. They want us to import StoreKit. And once StoreKit is imported, they want us to do SKStoreReviewController.requestReview. Look how small. So let's see how that looks. This is the recommended way that Apple wants you requesting a review. Where's my key at? Okay, so this gives us this view controller created by Apple, in which it asks for a review of the application. You'll notice that, true to its own best practices, Apple includes this Not Now button that allows us to cancel the alert. So let's name this commit Now let's confirm we're on main. Good. Git commit git status git add -u git commit replace custom options for rating the app with the official Apple review request alert dialog. Git status. Git log -1. And there's our commit. Brilliant. All right. So we've managed to create an alert dialog. We added a cancel action. We added a visiting a web page action, which works exactly the same as a deep linking action. We also added a local notification. And then we went in, we put that work onto a branch. We leveraged version control to have multiple different versions of our app rating feature set. And in our current feature set that we'll use for the first publication of the app, at least, we are going to keep the Apple recommended way to rate an application, specifically with their their StoreKit package and their StoreKit controller that they provide for you specifically for rating the application. After publication, maybe we'll look at adding the custom one in, but since we can't provide a really streamlined experience right now because we don't have an ID to take them directly to our app in the App Store, we'll rely on Apple and the way Apple's having it done, and then we'll revisit this later. So that's that feature. We got to look at a whole bunch of different stuff. I hope you enjoyed this. And then in the next one, hopefully we'll get the opportunity to look at even more stuff that we can do to make